Story recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a sci-fi film called Plus One. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. David is planning to surprise his girlfriend, Jill, before she leaves for college. David shows up at Jill's fencing tournament, and as she prepares for her next match, David calls her on the phone and lets her know that he's there. When Jill approaches him, he gives her a bouquet of roses and tells her that she can't wait to get her back home for summer. Jill, however, is apprehensive about the idea, saying she feels like she's being herded like cattle. After the fencing match, David approaches a girl dressed in a fencing uniform and commends her fencing skills, thinking that she's Jill. Upon learning that she's Jill's opponent, David apologizes, but the girl moves closer to him and plants a kiss on his lips. Jill arrives and sees David kissing the girl, so she runs out of the building in anger. David tries running after her, but she's nowhere to be found. When David gets home, he's disappointed to find out that Jill blocked her from her social media accounts. His friend Teddy chides him for going out of his way to visit Jill only to make out with another girl. David argues that the incident was merely a fluke, and he doesn't want to be with anyone but Jill. Teddy points out that all the beautiful girls in town will be coming back from college ready to go to bed with random guys they'll meet, and discloses that he hopes to be one of the random guys, so David wishes him luck. Teddy hints that David would have more chances of finding a girl if he had moved out of town, but David insists that he likes living there. As they prepare to attend a party thrown by their friend on God, a meteorite hurtles towards the earth and lands next to an electric post. Currents emerging from the meteorite flow through the wires, causing a power surge and an electrical outage across town. Not long after, the lights flicker inside David's house as he fixes his hair in front of the mirror. As he turns to the window to take a look outside, his reflection is seen still fixing his hair. On their way to the party, David expresses his fear that Jill will meet an older guy who knows how to satisfy her if he doesn't make up with her that night. When they arrive, they're quite impressed by the lengths that On God went through to set up the perfect ambience for his party. On God tells Teddy and David to enjoy themselves as he has prepared a lot of surprises for his guests. As they walk toward the house, their friend Allison approaches them and tells them that she's been waiting outside for a while because she couldn't find anyone she likes. Suddenly, Kyle, the drug dealer, confronts On God for not inviting him to the party. One of On God's guests tries to calm the drug dealer down, but he punches the guest in the face. Soon, David sees Jill arriving with a date, so he goes inside, hoping to talk to her. On God takes Teddy and Allison to a room where he's serving sushi on top of a Japanese woman's naked body. As David continues looking for Jill, Brenda tells him that Jill is with an older guy named Steve. She advises David to give Jill some space because Jill is furious. While Teddy tries desperately to hook up with a girl, he notices Melanie sitting alone on a couch. After introducing himself, he immediately starts flirting with her. Soon, David finds Jill talking with Steve, but he's distracted by the Japanese woman, who's furious because a guest named Greg bit her. When David turns around, Jill and Steve are already gone. A man named Pete approaches Allison and tries to make out with her, but she soon finds out that the guy and his girlfriend Tracy are only trying to pull a prank on her. Melanie eventually gets bored from observing the raunchy guests, so she tells Teddy to meet her in a room upstairs in 10 minutes so she could give him a surprise. Meanwhile, Kyle observes the strange currents from the meteorite reaching the electrical pole outside On God's house. As the electricity fluctuates, his girlfriend Bonnie sees another man identical to Kyle standing behind him, so she runs away in fear of the strange phenomenon. As David continues to search for Jill, he sees Steve coming out of a dark room, so he decides to look inside to see if Jill is there. David looks around the room but finds no one there. He inspects a bird inside a cage before going back outside. In the living room, the partygoers play tennis using a ball on fire and accidentally lights up a curtain, but sprinklers quickly put out the flames. As the partygoers enjoy the shower from the sprinklers, Teddy grabs a bottle of wine and goes up the stairs to find Melanie. When he enters the room, he finds Melanie already naked, waiting for him in bed. David asks On God if he could go to a secluded spot in the house to contemplate, so On God tells him to go to his parents' bedroom. On his way upstairs, he comes across Jill on her own, so he approaches her and asks her to give him a chance to apologize. David takes Jill to the master bedroom as the partygoers head out in the yard to continue the party. David tries making amends with Jill, but she points out that he is still clueless about what made her mad. Jill is furious because David made her feel replaceable, and he stepped into a part of her life that's supposed to be off limits to him. Elsewhere, Allison had given up trying to fit in, so she just watches the partygoers as they take the party outside. Before the guests could even reach the garden, two dancers start performing on the stage. Back inside the house, David tells Jill that he wished she never left, but Jill becomes more irritated with him for his reluctance to try new things. She berates him for trying to hold her back and hints that she doesn't want to waste her time with someone who wants to play the same game for the rest of his life. As David struggles to appease her, Jill only gets angrier with him. He tells her that he'll do anything to keep her, but Jill gets exasperated with him for being so possessive and leaves the room. In the bedroom, Melanie and Teddy start getting rough and fall from the bed, but they continue copulating on the floor. The wine glass falls to the floor and breaks on the ground near them, so Teddy tells her to be careful. As they finish making love, the power starts to flicker until it totally goes out. Melanie takes a shower, and Teddy lies down in bed waiting for her. When the power goes back on, Teddy is surprised to see Melanie in bed with him while she's also taking a shower at the same time. David leaves the master bedroom and finds the partygoers downstairs. When he looks out the window, he witnesses Kyle arguing with another man that looks exactly like him. Kyle then shoots the duplicate in the head and runs off. Melanie's duplicate tries to start things off with Teddy, but he's still confused and speechless from seeing double. The duplicate sees Melanie in the shower and thinks that Teddy invited another woman to join them. David is puzzled to see the guests inside the house when they're supposed to be partying in the back of the garden. As he looks around, he notices the partygoers doing the same things that they already did earlier. Melanie's double starts to worry after she takes notice of Teddy's confusion. Soon, Melanie gets out of the shower and sees her duplicate sitting on top of Teddy. Melanie and her duplicate are equally shocked by each other's presence. Teddy runs out of the room in panic as the two girls approach each other. While David tries to make sense of the situation, Allison approaches him and shows him a footage of the party outside the house. She then discloses that she met several duplicates downstairs, including her own. David takes Allison to the window and shows her Kyle's dead body lying outside, leading Allison to fear that their duplicates might try to kill them too. David surmises that the power outage had something to do with the duplicates. Teddy soon comes across them and tells them that she saw 2 copies of Melanie in the same room. Teddy suggests leaving the house, but David says he won't leave without Jill. As David looks around for Jill, Allison sees David's duplicate roaming the house. Soon, David sees Jill's double walking to a room and figures out that everything that happened inside the house is repeating. David wants to go downstairs to find Jill, but Allison stops him, reminding him of what happened to Kyle. David goes downstairs anyway and walks around wearing a hat he found on the floor. Allison notices her duplicate having a miserable time, so she decides to go downstairs and follow her, leaving Teddy by himself. David sees Jill's duplicate talking with Steve and he hides, recalling that his duplicate will be arriving in a few seconds. Soon after David's double arrives, the Japanese woman's duplicate gets up from her table and yells at Greg for biting her. She knocks Greg down with a flying kick and a karate chop before leaving the room. A guest named Mike notices David wearing his hat, so he grabs it from him. Allison sees her duplicate getting pranked, so she decides to spill a drink on Tracy as a reprisal. David hides in the darkroom and waits for his double to arrive. As the duplicate looks at the birdcage, he approaches the double and asks him what he brought to Jill's fencing match. When the duplicate reveals that he brought roses, he smashes a bottle into his head. He ties up the duplicate's hands and leaves him unconscious. Teddy tries to find out what happened to Melanie, but he sees his duplicate arriving with a bottle of wine, so he hides in the next room. Teddy sees Jill inspecting the sword display out in the hall, so he quietly goes down, trying to go unnoticed. He comes across David and tells him that he just saw Jill upstairs, but he's unsure whether she's the original or the duplicate. David surmises that the duplicate must be inside the house if Jill is outside. He instructs Teddy to stall Jill's duplicate while he looks for the original. Teddy approaches Jill's double and engages her in small talk, preventing her from leaving. David can't hide the disappointment in his face when he sees Jill dancing provocatively with Steve. On God approaches him and tells him that he's never seen Jill like that before. When On God walks back toward the house to get tequila, David stops him so that he won't see the duplicates inside. He tells On God that he'll get the tequila for him. Teddy goes back inside the room where he met Melanie and finds his duplicate trying to convince Melanie and her double to fornicate with him. Meanwhile, David runs back to the house and takes Jill's duplicate to the master bedroom to apologize. David starts off his apology by expressing his regret for making Jill feel replaceable. He manages to anticipate the things Jill will say and avoid the mistakes that he committed earlier. He tells Jill that he's sorry for stepping into a part of her life that he doesn't belong and expresses his fear that Jill is moving on without him. David then explains that his kiss with the other girl was his stupid way of trying to make things stop so he could catch up to Jill. David says he would understand if Jill decides to move on without him, but he asks her to give him another chance. He goes on to kiss Jill, telling her that he no longer wants things to remain the same. During the kiss, the power starts flickering, and the duplicates disappear. When the electricity returns, the duplicates reappear in another place. The duplicates of Teddy and Melanie appear on the floor as they were copulating wildly. When they see the originals watching them, Teddy's double gets up and cuts his hand on the broken glass on the floor. Melanie and Teddy run out of the room. He asks Melanie if the duplicate tried to hurt her, but she discloses that the double is just as confused as she is. Teddy tells Melanie that there are 2 of everybody. Teddy realizes that the duplicates moved closer in time when they reappeared. As the duplicates move the party outside the house, Melanie starts to worry that something terrible would happen if the partygoers see their duplicates. Teddy expresses his fear that the doubles could take over their bodies when they catch up to them in time. David, on the other hand, deduces that the originals could change their doubles instead. Allison decides to approach her double as she stares at the party in the garden. When Allison grabs her shoulders, the double knocks her to the ground. The duplicate aims her fist at Allison, but she stops when she sees her own face looking back at her. Allison introduces herself after telling the double that she doesn't intend to hurt her. Teddy asks David why he hasn't seen his duplicate around, but he wouldn't answer. Soon, the duplicates of the dancers arrive on the stage while the originals are still dancing. A partygoer notices the duplicates and commends On God for finding 2 sets of twins to dance at the party. On God tries to hide his confusion and tells the guests that it's part of the surprise. Allison asks her double about her motives, but the duplicate is as clueless as she is. Realizing that the double has no ill intentions against her, Allison invites her duplicate to go back inside the house, saying that the party is starting to get lame. Meanwhile, Teddy tries to convince David to help him figure out what they can do to fix the situation. However, David is only focused on getting back together with Jill. As the partygoers come face to face with the duplicates at the garden, another power outage occurs, causing the doubles to vanish. David comes across Jill and tries hugging her but finds out that she's still mad at him. Teddy gets exasperated with David and tells him he's on his own. Realizing that he's not talking to the duplicate, David tries apologizing again, but Jill wouldn't listen to him. David's hope of getting back with Jill is crushed as he watches her walk away with Steve. Allison is disappointed about the disappearance of the duplicates, but she sets aside a chair for her double and tells David that they'll be ready for them the next time they appear. Meanwhile, Teddy gets up on the stage and tells the guests that they all need to hide because they're in grave danger. Teddy urges the partygoers to go to the pool house, but they ignore his warnings and start chanting to turn the music back on. On God breaks off the chant and says that Teddy is right because he witnessed strange things happening. The guests start heading to the pool house after hearing On God confirm that something is wrong. As Teddy runs to the pool house, he comes across Jill, so he tries taking her with him. Teddy tells her that David would never forgive him if anything happens to her. However, Jill wants to go elsewhere with Steve, saying he doesn't care what David thinks. Steve tells her that he wants to hear what Teddy has to say, so she walks away on her own. David tries following her, but Teddy pulls him toward the pool house. Soon, a guest discovers Kyle's corpse on the ground while she's peeing, so she runs to the pool house and tells the partygoers that there's a killer outside. When the lights turn back on, they see the duplicates partying at the back of the garden. Teddy points out that the duplicates are now only a few minutes away from them. Jill's double feels confused from her sudden reappearance near the stage as she recalls talking to David a while ago. Allison walks with her duplicate back to the house, delighted that her double reappeared. Steve's duplicate sees Jill walking away, so he follows her, leaving Jill's double near the stage. David notices Steve's duplicate with Jill, so he decides to leave the pool house. Jill's double approaches On God and asks if he's seen David, saying he was just talking to him. A partygoer approaches David and points out that Steve is on his way to the house with Jill, but David ignores him and goes on his way to find Jill's duplicate. The partygoers inside the pool house start to worry about their duplicates catching up to them, but a girl named Lisa points out that the duplicates may not necessarily have ill intentions against them. A Jewish man agrees, noting that the Book of Talmud states that to meet oneself is to meet God. Greg, however, notes that meeting God could only mean death. At the garden, Teddy's duplicate runs to the stage and bumps against David. He asks David whether he's the duplicate or the original, but David ignores him and continues looking for Jill's double. When Teddy's double reaches the stage, he stops the music and tells the partygoers about other versions of them around the house. He warns them that the other versions of them are going to take over their lives. Teddy's double warns that they'll soon end up in the same spot as the other versions, and there's no way of knowing which version would be left alive. Inside the pool house, Melanie points out that Teddy's duplicate had a different experience than the original, and he's saying things that the original didn't say earlier. Greg and Pete suggest going after the duplicates before they catch up to them. Most are reluctant to follow their suggestion, but several men start grabbing weapons and prepare to go outside to attack their doubles. In the garden, the crowd ignores Teddy's pleas and starts chanting to turn the music back on. Meanwhile, Greg and Pete quietly approach their doubles among the crowd and kill them as the chanting continues. Mike hits his double with a shovel but fails to kill him. David finally sees Jill's duplicate and smiles at her. However, before Jill's double could approach him, he sees the original Jill with Steve at the house and runs toward them. As Pete flees from the garden, a woman sees his duplicate's dead body on the ground and starts screaming. The crowd stops chanting and sees the killers running to the pool house, so they chase after them. The originals block the door as the duplicates start banging on the pool house. While Steve's double and Jill start to make love, the power goes out and the doubles disappear. David enters the bedroom and stabs Jill, assuring her that he loves her and everything will be okay. She hides her body beneath the sheets as the lights start to flicker. Soon, the duplicates emerge beside the originals inside the pool house, causing intense panic. They start attacking each other, resulting in the deaths of several partygoers. When Jill's double reappears in the bedroom, David tells her that he never meant to hurt her. He kisses the double after assuring her that he'll never try to hold her back again. Downstairs, Allison and her duplicate kiss just as the lights start to flicker. When the electricity returns, only one version of the partygoers remains, but some of them are left with the terrible memory of killing their duplicates. The partygoers leave the pool house, not knowing which versions of them were left behind. Teddy asks Melanie to call him, but she just stares at him and walks away. As the crowd disperses, On God weeps from seeing the blood on his hands. Outside the pool house, David and Jill kiss as two meteorites shoot across the sky. The duplicates that emerged after the power surge clearly had no sinister motives because they are the exact copies of the partygoers. However, David and his friends thought they were a threat after learning that the hot-headed drug dealer had killed another version of him. Soon, the threat of being replaced by a duplicate fades from David's mind. He starts focusing on getting back together with Jill, not caring whether he reconciles with the duplicate or the original. He stops his own double from making the same attempt, knowing that the duplicate will only ruin his chances. After David's attempts to patch things up with Jill fail, He realizes that his only chance is to reconcile with her duplicate. While his friends cower in fear of being seen by the duplicates, David goes out to kill Jill so that he could be together with her double. Some of On God's guests have realized that the doubles are not necessarily malevolent, but their voices are drowned by men whose first instinct is to turn to savagery. When they come face to face with the duplicates inside the pool house, they end up attacking each other because the fear has already been instilled in them. Somehow, all the partygoers are left unscathed after the merging, but some are scarred by the memories of killing their doubles. The only person who decided to shed her fear of the doubles was Allison. She gave in to her curiosity to meet with her duplicate and realized that her double is the only person that she liked at the party.
This is all for Story Recap for today. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Tell us in the comments if you want us to recap your favorite movie. Watch other of our videos showing on the screen and leave a like because it helps the channel. And I would see you in the next video. Goodbye.